This is an Ellis Mowers and More small engine repair. Stay connected on Instagram and Facebook at Ellis Mowers and More. Comments or questions? Leave them below or email me, ellis@ellismowers.com. Parts used in today's repair are found using the links in the description below. And as always, like and subscribe for more small engine content. Today's repair is going to be on this Cub Cadet LT1045. We finished up a GT1554 a while back, and this one is just a baby version of that, I suppose. It's got a 4-lug rear end, I guess, with hubs and stuff on it. Belt drive. Front end's a little worn on it. Kicker with this, though, it's got a 20 horsepower Kohler Courage. It does have a cracked block on the side. It's just starting to crack, so if we can get this to run, we might just take the sump off the top because it's a bucket engine, as long as it's not leaking anywhere else. And we might use some JB weld to repair the crack. I wouldn't even attempt to do that, but I did see that Terrell Fixes All did that once in one of his early videos a few years ago. So I want to try it myself if this runs. He said the engine was blown. It just doesn't have any oil in it right now. But I've turned it by hand and it's got compression on it. So I'll go ahead and give y'all a look around this machine and we'll get started on it. So this is that hydrostatic drive LT1045, set up very similar to that GT that I had, except this has a hood that opens like this. Doesn't like to stay open either, but nonetheless, 20 horsepower Kohler Courage. I think this would be like a, I forgot what model year this was, if I've even looked. Build date, hold on a second. 2006. So first year of the Kohler Courage, so that's great. That's all right though. We're gonna wash it as long as it runs. I'm gonna go ahead and take it up there and wash it because it's a little bit of a bear to push. But you got your 4-lug rear bagger, 46-inch deck. Like I said, hydrostatic transmission. Got an issue with the deck like most of them do. For some reason, these Cub Cadets of this vintage like to just blow holes out right here around the mount of where the front bracket is here on the left side. Rest of the deck, from what I can tell, actually looks to be in good condition. So as long as we can get that hole right there patched up, then we will be in good shape when it comes to this machine in terms of cosmetics. It's going to look a lot better once I wash it. I'm going to put a battery in it, throw some oil in it, probably get it out there in case I have a smoke show. And we'll see if this thing runs. So let me show you what it's doing after I put a battery in it. It's locked on one of the strokes of the engine. So I'm going to pop in here and take a look at the air filter. I do know one thing, the valve cover's got to come off of this thing because we got to figure out what's going on with it. Part of me thinks it might be camshafts. Oh, that looks to be in really good shape. Right there. A little stale fuel in the carb there, but nothing crazy. Just oil caked on everywhere. think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and back it back into the garage. Figure out what's going on. We got oil just caked on right here. I'm wondering if, I don't know, I'm going to remove the spark plug and see what happens. But I got to get this shield off first, which is just a couple of 3/8 it looks like. I'll grab that and we'll see what we need to do after that. So I don't have feel-o-vision, but when I do this, I took the spark plug off and just took the muffler and stuff off right here. Ton of back blow coming out the intake. That makes me think I've got a bad or a misadjusted intake valve. Will that be what it is? Let's find out. So I'm going to take off the valve cover. I'm probably going to have to take off the engine cover too, which is going to be a little bit of a pain because it's all encapsulated with the fuel pump and whatnot. But there's a bunch of 8mm and whatnot, so I'll probably go ahead and get that off. That way I can inspect everything underneath it as well, and get this valve cover off and see how bad it is. Or maybe, let's see. Yeah, I might be able to muster to get around those bolts just to get the valve cover only off. We'll see. We'll find out. Pretty sure when I open up this valve cover, I'm going to see a bad valve or something along those lines. So, all right, all the bolts of the valve cover loose. Let's take her off. Oh, she's kind of stuck. See what we can do here. There we go. What have we got inside? Oh. Holy cow. Ugh. Valves that are about to fall off. That's what we've got. At least on the, would that be the intake side? I don't know. Make sure this connecting rod's okay. Yeah, she's good. Okay. Could we get lucky here? We still got a crack in the block, but could it just be that this valve nut came loose? We are going to have to, these are adjustable valves, yes. Yes, okay. They're a little bit out, especially that one. Really, that one. Remember, I was told that this thing was blown up. It is not. So, let me grab the tools that I need to adjust the valves back. I'm just going to pop this valve cover back on after that, and we'll see if that fixes the starting issue. And if it does, as long as I know I can get it to turn over, I'll throw some oil in it and see if we can get it to run. If we can get it to run, that's awesome. That means that I feel like I have the go-ahead to be able to not bulletproof this engine, but help make it last longer, so to speak. I don't know if you've ever adjusted valves on an engine before. It's a very similar premise to many of these small engines. But what you do is you take a T15, take the 10mm wrench, and then take your T15, loosen it up, tighten your nut, and then you tighten the T15 back up, and you've got what you need there. So what we're trying to do is make these valves tight to within about 5 thousandths or so. Which we're getting there. Sometimes you have to make small adjustments. But we're going to make sure that we're doing the correct valve. So there, we've got the intake valve is out. I've got it in too tight now, actually. So we're going to work on that a little bit. Loosen it up just a tinge. I think we're still a little loose. We're moving around a little bit now. So if you don't have a feeler gauge, it's going to be a little difficult. You may still be able to ballpark it, but not very well. Let's see, 5 thousandths. We're still a little tight. So like I said, it's a continual back and forth here of getting it on the money. We ain't got to go very far. Maybe right there. We're just going to see if that is enough. Definitely. Oh, there we go. Actually right about where we need to be, which is good. Let me check like a 7. Sometimes I check 7 thousandths or something along those lines just to make sure that I'm in the right vicinity. Because if I can fit a 5 in there, but I can't fit a 7 in there. Alright, so a 7 is really, really tight. So we're really close there. Exhaust valve, I'm assuming, that's the exhaust valve. So we're working on the exhaust valve. That explains why I had exhaust pushing out the intake or the spark plug hole. Terminology is irrelevant sometimes, right? Look at the intake valve. Intake valve's really tight. I bet this motor's been running a little hot. Got these valves expanded a little bit. Good thing is the Kohler commands are not adjustable. These are. So it helps in terms of being able to get them back on track. That's about where we need to be. That's at about, so that's 7 thousandths on the intake. 5 thousandths kind of fits kind of snug. So 7 barely gets in there. We may go just a tinge tighter, but y'all get the premise. I'm going to finish that up, put the valve cover back on, put this exhaust shield and stuff back on, so that we can attempt to run this thing. And, well, number 1, turn it over. Number 2, run it. All right, so plug's back in, by the way, too. That fixed that. Let's pop a plug wire on it. Throw some oil in it. Man, this is an oily mess. Clean the mower up after this. And if it runs, that is. Let's see what we need to do after that. I'm excited. I think we might have a runner here, guys. Let's see. So, put some oil in it. I don't know what this thing's gonna sound like when we pop it off. It might knock like goodness knows what. I don't know. Let's not prolong the inevitable and find out, though. doesn't sound the best. Does not sound the best. But it does run. What I'm going to do next, because this thing is just absolutely nasty. It's got plenty of oil in it, whatever. Believe it or not, it's not even loose on the dang mounts there. I'm put the air filter and everything back on. I'm going to drive it up there. Actually, we need to make sure it drives, don't we? Tell you what, let me put the air filter on it. We'll try it then. So we've got oil seeping out of the block where that crack is. Nonetheless, it does still run. I'm not going to run it very long. I'm just going to run it so that I can drive it up there, test the mowing function of it and the driving function of it, and give it a nice wash. Then I'm going to bring it back down here, and we're going to fix everything on it. All right, so we're going to be easy on it. That's a choker. Well, try it again. Put the hydrostatic on it. There's our freight train. Now we're good. We're not running this very long. Let's see. How about that? Let me get this thing up here. Remember, I got this for free, guys. And she runs. Actually runs pretty good considering it's got a cracked block on it. It's gonna smoke like freight train until I get all this oil off of it. And even still, it's still gonna leak out of there, but we can at least get all the mess that's caked on it, valve cover, smoke, and all that junk washed off of it. I'll show you it clean, and then I guess y'all will be joining me in about 2 weeks or so, because I'm gonna be hitting a little bit of vacay. And we'll take this bad boy and see if we can close up that hole in the engine where the crack is. If we can successfully do that, we'll weld the deck, put everything back together here, and have us what's probably going to end up being a really nice mower when we get done with it. So I got it back in the garage. It's all clean and everything. Still smoking a little bit. Like I said, what we're going to do is we got to fix the hood on it, obviously. But we also are going to see if we can get this block fixed to where it's not seeping all that oil out anymore, and save this engine. First time I've ever going to be attempting to do this, so I hope y'all enjoy it. As for everything else on the mower, it seems pretty good. Once we get it running and make sure that it's not leaking any oil on us, we'll go and get this piece fixed right here on the deck, and it's going to be a pretty stout mower for somebody. I didn't tell y'all how many hours this has got on it, but it's got just under 300. It's got like 294 on it. So I can show y'all whenever it cranks here. So that's showing the battery voltage, 294.1. So really not too bad on the hours. That's probably pretty average, especially for this vintage of a mower. But yeah, we'll get on. Next step what we're going to do on this is just go to town on it. See if we can get this engine and save it. So we'll go ahead. We're going to go ahead and start the process of fixing this crack. I've gone on a long vacation just coming back, it really didn't leak too much out. It was actually fairly full of oil still. We'll address the valve cover as well down here a little bit later. But for right now, we're going to take off all the 8mm off the top of this. I want to do my best to go in depth on this just because of how common this problem is on these machines, and everything I'm going to do to hopefully prevent this from happening again. So we've got still a little bit of oil buildup and stuff underneath. Not bad, all things considered, because it runs good. See, look at this. This is what happens on these right here. Oh wow, look at that. So I'll show you that one in just a second. These bolts just get loose over time, and what happens is they'll do that. Exactly what we see here. And check this one out. It actually broke off the head. So I've got to find a bolt that will work for that. I think I have one. I just need to get it. But all 4 of these on the front are loose. Just completely loose. That happens. I can't tell you how often that I see that happen, guys. So that's a pretty common deal. It takes a little bit in order to get this off, so y'all just gonna have to hang tight with me. We've got to get this. We've got to get the cover off here. Number one, we got to get the flywheel shroud off, the flywheel off, the ignition coil off, the starter off, this ground wire for the starter off. I almost had an issue there with the coil wire. So I'm just going to start unplugging things here. Got to take these 2 T30s or whatever for the throttle mount and stuff off. Those bolts are loose. Can't believe this thing ran good, all things considered. So I don't know if there's any. It's just on there so tight. You gotta just get it started, I suppose. I mean, when I finish this, it's really gonna be a nice unit. It's just it's got the fatal flaw of the loose crankcase bolts on it. So this is like a 9/16 I've got to get off. A couple of T30s or T27s, one of the two. And those are, I think, are Allen keys. So I got all kinds of stuff here that I've got to deal with. Take this clip off. That goes down to a positive wire. We're going to take the battery terminal off before we get in trouble here. I'm going to get the appropriate tools that I need. We'll continue to take everything off here. We've been moving along here. This was a 15mm. What I did is I took it out, sprayed some WD-40. It's got, at least we've got the holes for a flywheel puller. So that's what I'm going to use to get this off. I always hate trying to, especially with these blocks being so thin, doing that. See, we still got some oil, and the oil is just everywhere on this thing. I'm going to try and brush off some of this, especially once I get the top portion of the crankcase off. I took the 2 10mm bolts out, or 10mm nuts off of this air filter cover. I'll set it aside. We already know that the engine runs good. I've taken the ignition coil off as well. So that was just a couple of Allens. It was a 5/32 did it, so everything on here is metric, so keep that in mind. Next thing is getting this starter off, which is going to be, are these 8mm or 10s? 10mm. So that, we'll get that out of here. What do we need to do is disconnect the starter terminal here on the bottom. That's just 7/16. Hopefully with the little yank it'll come off. Let's see, I need to go to the righty, since we're going upside down here. Okay. We'll get that out of the way. Okay. Let that slide down under there. Set that aside, along with the other bolt, the other screw. And now I think I'm at the point where, or are we? We're close. So what I've got to do is feed this wire through that hole right there. I think y'all can see that still. So that constitutes a ignition coil wire, which we have already taken off, a ground wire that plugs into that device that was on top there of this mower that I have taken off. It was this device and the positive wire that's going to the anti-backfire solenoid on the carburetor. Just I got to unplug that, snip the zip tie off. So unplug this, snip. I got to snip the zip tie off right there on top of the anti-backfire. I may just be able to pull it. I don't know. Probably not. And then just pull this off, and then we'll be at the flywheel. So let me do a little bit of touch-up work there. I will get the pullers on the flywheel, and we'll pull the flywheel off, and then we'll go ahead and be able to finish taking everything off here for the top. So we're gonna try this here. Flywheel puller is on. I've screwed everything down as far as it'll go. Made everything snug. Everything is centered as good as it can be. A 14mm is on the top. I'm going to also show you how to feed these wires through. It's a little bit tricky, but it's going to be a little bit easier once we get the flywheel off, I think. So I've got my impact here. We're going to go really gingerly here. I'm going to put my safety glasses on too. I've had these things pop off and sail, you know, that high sometimes. So let's see if this is going to do anything. There we go. Worked as desired. Perfect. Whoop. Okay. All right. I'll get my little piece here in just a second, but we'll unscrew this. Flywheel should come off now. Perfect. So now we're almost there. We've got a couple of I think those are T30s also, T27s, one of the two. T25. That'll get this off, this ignition stator. Perfect. So that gets the stator off. Looks like the stator is hooked on or is attached to a little metal bracket here on the top of this that we're just going to pull off real quick. It's just a little clip. Okay, so we've just taken that off. We can just let that rest right there for now. And now we'll feed these wires through the front or the side here. These wires are kind of stiff from where they stay in a certain spot. This one's been in a certain spot for about 17 years, since this is a 2006 model year. So we just got to be careful when we feed these through. I've got to get this white wire in the big area of the gap right there so that I can get that connector through. We'll feed these other two wires through as well. Let me get this green one through. Okay. And the red one. So, I'm looking at everything here, and it looks like we have gotten everything off that we need to get off before we pop everything, pop this whole sump cover off, since this is a bucket engine. We'll see how bad the damage is. If it's cracked on the inside where some of the valves are, we're not going to worry about it going forth with JB welding the crack on the side. I do need to find one more bolt here. Hopefully that's not all jacked up where that mount is. That's where I'm most afraid of. But while we're here, might as well go ahead and get to it. Just a bunch of 10 millimeters. Like I said, all of these on the front were already were loose. I just used my fingers and got them loosened. So ooh, that one's still tight. let's see, so I've got that one, that one. What have I got? No, that's not one. Around the perimeter, I just have this one that wants to be stubborn. And let me do that one real quick here. Quarter inch should get it. Come on now. There we go. So all the bolts are off. We've got to see how bad the damage is on that one that broke the head off. And I'll have to find a replacement. Okay, I think that's everything. Remember, that one's got a clip in it right there. Put all those right there. And y'all see any more? I think I've got them. So I'm gonna find a rubber, maybe a rubber mallet. We're gonna tap on it very lightly. All we gotta do is get it to pop off. Shouldn't be too difficult for that to happen. Let's see, they're all off, so I pulled it off at the, kept the oil filter on it. That's a great place to give it a little bit of leverage because of the surface area as opposed to trying on the ears here. Last thing you want to do is break off them ears and you're done. So easy does it. We're looking inside. Camshafts look good, so that's a good thing. We do have to get them off. So, and underneath the sump cover looks good too. Can't really show it to y'all right now, but trust me, it looks just fine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to line up the teeth. See if I can do this easily. I'm going to get the spark plug out. I got to line the camshaft teeth up. Well, yeah, I'm going to line the camshaft teeth up so that I can get these out without any trouble. So let me... We're pulling 10 minutes on this one clip here. Get the spark plug out. Oh, that's a bummer right there. It broke further down in the... That's all walled out too. Holy cow. That bolt broke. Should just be a soft bolt. We might have to drill it out. So we got a little bit more work than we thought, unfortunately. Off camera, I'm going to line these up to their respective points on the and marks on the crankshaft, and I'll go ahead and pull them off, pull this side off, just to make sure that we don't have any further issues going on with the camshafts. We're going to take a small break from this. I did get the camshafts off. I didn't have enough leverage to get everything turned, but at least Kohler has put these little pins in so that you don't get anything screwed up. We'll double check after we put everything back on. The right camshaft is red, has a red mark. The left camshaft has a blue mark. And like I said, we'll make sure 100% that we got it right when we put it back on. We're going to go ahead and take off the valve cover and remove the valve push rods. We have to reseal the valve cover anyways. Like I said, we know it runs, but we've got to get that crack fixed in the block, which is right borderline, because you can kind of see, I don't know why Kohler made these things like this, but you can see the crack goes about right here and then goes under, down under here a little bit. I have to get a flashlight and look at it, but the crack kind of goes from about right there down, and I think it tries to start right here, so I got to clean all this off and clean this area off and just really throw the JB weld on it. First thing I want to do is get that screw drilled out. I'm going to try some left-hand drill bits and an easy out. It should come out. It should come out. It shouldn't be in there that hard. Just because of all the oil that's on it. The quick break, though, however, is the deck. So the deck needs to be welded. My dad is going to weld it for me because he has more resources at home than I do when it comes to welding. He's always happy to do it for me, which I'm very thankful for. I have taken the deck belt off here. All I did, these Cub Cadets, you can get by with just sliding, pulling on the deck belt and kind of sliding it around the PTO pulley there. In order to get this deck off, all it's going to be is pulling these pins out right here, which can get a little bit, there we go. So there, we pull out that one. I'm going to pull out the one on the other side. Hopefully that one will go just as easily. And all I have to do after that is push the deck forward to get it off of that front bracket, because it's got one of those brackets that's kind of like this. Just got to get it over that slot. And then we can pull it out. So let's do that. Okay, fantastic. So, we pull that up. Should be able to just slide right out of here. That's awesome. That'll work great. So, that's taken care of. We'll get that deck welded. In terms of the belt, I think the belt's alright still. It's got a little bit of wear on it, but nothing to the point where it needs to be replaced, I don't think. I don't even know how the blades look on this thing. Let's take a quick look while we're here. Oh, those blades are in great shape. Just need a quick sharpening. We'll grease up the spindles a little bit. Everything moves freely on it, so you can't doubt that. Drive belt, we should be able to get a good look at now too. We probably will order a new drive belt for it, because we've got one little chunk that's trying to go out right there. The rest of it's okay though, from what I can tell. Y'all know we had them drive belt issues with that other Cub Cadet. It really drives just fine though. So just that one little snippet there that I can see. It looks well kept otherwise though, so yeah. So that may not be done actually, because it's just that one little spot on it. The rest of it looked good. Either way, we've got everything off now. I'm going to go ahead and take this valve cover off. We already have discovered the bad valve that we had. Don't know if that was related to what has happened to this block. It's very possible that the block got shifted. I've got to get that bolt out. If y'all want to pray for me here, hopefully this thing is not, you know, messed up in that aspect. I'll do a little work, rejoin y'all here in just a second. Valve covers are off, push rods are out. I have organized everything on the bench. I know that looks messy. I was actually looking at videos today from last year. I can't believe how I worked in the garage before this, when I had it like I had it. All this will be clean by the time we finish this back up. That's why I have that, so that I have places to put projects. Time-consuming thing is going to be scraping off these gaskets. We're going to replace this cork gasket here. We're just going to put some RTV on it. We're going to do the same thing with this too. Did one a couple years ago. Worked good. And it came back the following year for a carb issue, but the engine and everything was fine. Have never done a crack before, but I had to replace loose. I had to put loose bolts on, put loose bolts back together. I'm going to work on this, scrape the gasket, take this one off, and we'll continue this in part 2 to keep the video from being too long. So thank you all for watching part 1 of this Cub Cadet. We've done a couple of things here. The biggest thing is going to be the engine though. We're going to see if we can save this engine, because the rest of the mower, save for that one hole in the deck, which is going to get fixed, is good. Worst case, if we can't save this, we're going to we'll put like a Briggs or something on it. I mean, it's fine either way. But I'm really surprised because I got this for free. All I've got it so far in it is a battery and $6 worth of JB weld, which we'll do in part 2 just to keep part 1 from being so lengthy here. Because I know I've done a lot of instructional stuff in this video that can get quite lengthy. Hope you're all enjoying this video series so far. Catch me on part 2 coming up in a couple of days to see if we can get this Kohler Courage back to its former glory, so to speak, and where it's not leaking anymore, it's running reliably, and the block is fixed. So we'll see. Hope y'all enjoy the ride. I have not done this before. This is a great experiment for me. If it works, it's going to be awesome, because I'm not going to really have much money at all into a mower, a riding mower in good shape, a Cub Cadet with a bagger, which should sell for good money. Y'all take care. I'll catch you on the next video.